近年来，华尔街上越来越多的投资者和机构开始认识到 ESG 因素对于企业长期价值和可持续发展的重要性。在2016年，诺贝尔委员会将经济学奖颁发给了哈佛大学的奥利弗·哈特教授和麻省理工学院的本格特·霍斯特罗姆教授。获奖理由是表彰他们对契约理论做出的贡献。作为一名在全球范围内享有卓越声誉的经济学家，奥利弗·哈特教授对契约理论进行了深入的研究。由于在合同中不可能对每种情况都做出明确的定义，因此在不同情况下做出决策的权利应该以最优的方式来分配。这些分析对于公司治理和法律制度的完善等方面具有重要的意义。在本次独家专访中，我们将与哈特教授探讨他对于 ESG 实践的看法，以及对于全球企业可持续发展的建议和观点。通过探讨这一重要的议题，我们将深入了解在当今不断变化的商业环境中，如何将社会责任与经济增长紧密结合，促进全球可持续发展的蓝图。Hello, Oliver. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
What metrics or standards do you believe are most effective in assessing a company's ESG performance? And how can these metrics be standardized to provide a comprehensive industry benchmark?
I mean, this is a very good question, but it's quite hard to answer because I think that right now we're in a period where there are many measures of performance, and different people come up with different measures. Some can make a company look good, others can make a company not look good. I don't think we're at the point where we have standardized measures or agreed on measures even the E part. You could look at carbon footprint of a company, but then of course there's also the carbon footprints of all the companies that company does business with, its suppliers. And people try to do this with I think phase 3 emissions, 2, 3, or stage 3, whatever they're called, these different, going beyond the company itself to all the other companies it deals with. But this is I don't think we yet have an agreed methodology. So a company like Tesla, if you look at it one way, it's very environmentally friendly because it's producing electric cars. But on the other hand, if you look at all the inputs into Tesla, those actually are not so good environmentally.
Considering the global perspective, how do you see the integration of ESG principles evolving in emerging markets versus developed economies? And what challenges might arise in these different contexts?
Partly because of the difficulty of evaluating how well a company is doing. I'm in favor, in my work, I've argued that engagement with companies on specific issues may be a better way forward than deciding whether to invest in a company based on whether it is doing well on some ESG according to some criterion or criteria, precisely because it's difficult to come up with objective criteria. I think selection is a tricky business, but engagement is potentially, I think, can do more, because with engagement, you are maybe focused on a particular decision a company is making. So we're not talking about whether it's overall good or bad, but we're talking about something it is planning to do. And the question is whether the shareholders approve of that. And this is something that could affect the environment, or it could affect the workers in the company or the customers. And on that specific issue, I think we can come up with some idea about whether it's good or bad for both for profit and the world. So just to take an example, I mean, think of a company that is maybe produces plastic waste. And there might be a proposal to reduce the amount of plastic waste or change the containers that it's using for its products. Okay, this might be something that would be somewhat expensive to do, but there would be a measurable gain for the environment. And you can actually, calculate how much better it would be for the environment if this company reduces its plastic waste by 50%, say. And then shareholders could decide, do we think this is that trade-off worth it or not? Now, your question was about developing versus developed
Yes.
economies. And I don't see a difference between them in terms of shareholders being able to consider such a question. I think they can do it in whether it's the US or China or India, it doesn't, or the UK. The question can be, will be the same. Now, the answer may be different. So I think it's quite possible that in a country which is less well off, where the shareholders are less well off, they might say, you know what, to us, money's more important. We don't care so much about these other things. So we're going to say to the company, don't reduce your plastic waste. Whereas maybe in a more developed an economy, if the shareholders are better off, which may be true for a company in a more developed economy, they might say, yeah, we are, for us, the plastic waste is more important. The answers may be different, but I think in both cases, the shareholders should have the ability to express their views on such an issue.
Looking ahead, what do you see as the most important critical trends or developments in the ESG landscape? And how should companies prepare to adapt to these changes in the future?
What I'm hoping is that there's going to be a shift away from people saying, people being encouraged to invest in green funds. This is, a lot of the action that has occurred in the last few years has been about people choosing particular kinds of investments, which are, let's say, green. And the problem with this is, and it's very related to what we were just talking about, is there's a lot of greenwashing. So, people set up some fund which looks good. And so people who care about the environment can say, oh, yes, I'm investing in that fund and that makes me feel good. But often, partly for the reasons we've just discussed, where it's very hard to say objectively whether a company's green or brown, at least in some cases it's hard. So many of the companies in this green fund may not be that great after all. And so it's just a marketing device. So I think this is, this has led to a lot of unhappiness with what's going on in ESG. But I think if we shift towards a bigger focus on engagement, so what I would like to see is a situation where people are encouraged to invest in everything, which is what many people do through index funds. They're not cutting out brown companies or dirty companies. They're not cutting them out, but the strategy will be, let's try to improve them. Let's use our voting power to improve them. So I'm hoping that there will be a shift from what I call exit or divestment or selection screening towards just trying to improve all the companies that we invest in. We hold a very well diversified portfolio, so we get all the benefits of diversification. We're in an index fund, so we're not actively trading, because that doesn't, that's a sure way to lose money. So it's a passive investment strategy, but it's an active engagement strategy. So I'm hoping this is the way things are going to shift. But of course, I can't be sure.
How can companies strike a balance between meeting ESG goals and maintaining financial viability?
I think it's up to the shareholders. So, yes, of course, you can't, if a company's going to survive, it has to make money. Um, and, if it's very close to um, extinction, if it's just above water, then probably, the shareholders would say, don't worry too much about ESG because you need to make money to survive. So you better maximize financial return, right? But when a company is well above water and has, healthy returns and, a company like Google or Alphabet or whatever it called, or Meta or Amazon or Apple. I mean, these are companies which are hugely profitable. So for them, sacrificing a bit of their profit to be a better player in society makes much more sense. And I think it's something the shareholders, I would like to think, would support. So I think if you ultimately, these decisions should be left to shareholders.
Shareholder activism has been a notable trend. How are activist investors incorporating ESG goals into their campaigns?
Right. Well, this is an important question because I think we have to distinguish between different types of activism. So the classic activist investor in the last, few years or even decades has been someone who acquires a 5% stake in a company and then pushes the company to be more profitable. So it's been about shareholder value maximization and sort of disciplining companies that are not maximizing profit or shareholder value. And this hedge fund, let's say it's a hedge fund, comes along, acquires a stake, and pushes the company to be more profitable, maybe to cut costs, and then the share price goes up, and so the activist has made money out of this. This is the classic activism. It used to be 40 years ago, it was hostile takeover bids, but those became more difficult. So instead, we have people not taking over the company, but acquiring, somewhere between 5 and 10%, and then pushing management to be more profitable. Now, the trouble with that kind of activism is it's all about the money. It's all about financial return. It's not really about ESG at all. And so actually, I think that kind of activism can be bad because you could have a company that is actually, let's say, being environmentally good, but not profit maximizing. And then one of these activists could come along and push it to be less environmentally good and more profitable. And one way to protect against that is to make sure that the shareholders of the company can vote on any action that the activist attempts to bring about. So, for example, if the activist engages in a proxy fight and tries to put people on the board, people who are going to cut costs, say, then the existing shareholders should be able to vote on that. And they might vote against it because maybe they like what this company is doing. Maybe they like, let me go back to my example of plastic waste. Maybe this company has implemented better packaging for the products, which doesn't destroy the environment as much. Okay, they've done that, but it's not so profitable. And now the activist comes along and wants to reverse that. Well, let the shareholders vote on this. And they, as I say, we might find that they would say, no, we don't want more plastic waste, even though it's more profitable. We like the status quo. Now, one problem at the moment is that a lot of the voting is done by institutions. So an example would be Twitter. When Elon Musk purchased Twitter, he was offering a premium, a significant premium, and institutions liked that. And so on our behalf, because most people who invest in Twitter do it through a mutual fund. And these mutual funds vote on this bid by Musk. And because it was a premium bid, they felt obliged to vote for it. But it's possible that if the investors in the mutual fund had been able to vote themselves, they might have said, you know what, we don't think Musk is a good person to be running Twitter. For social reasons, we think it's going to be a bad thing. So even though he's offering a premium, we're going to vote against it. This is a long answer to your question, but it's really saying that not all activism is good. But I think if you put voting decisions in the hands of the ultimate shareholders, not the intermediaries, but the retail shareholders, if you do that, then you may get a better outcome, or at least a more democratic outcome.
If you look at the world today, what are the most important economic issues?
Some of them have to do with relations between, the most important countries, including mine and yours. So that can be obviously have a big impact on the world economy. And I hope we can somehow move forward in such a way that we don't have lots of tension, and that we don't have tariffs and trade restrictions. The kind of thing that might happen. Well, it's already, we have too many of them, I think. But if Trump is reelected, he's going to put in more tariffs. So this, I think, would be definitely going in the wrong direction. But the other thing is, obviously, a lot of people, even in developed countries, in advanced countries like the United States, a lot of people seem to be unhappy with their economic situation. There's a lot of dissatisfaction, polarization, and I think that some of the ideas that we've had for many years, which is that if jobs are lost either to automation or to foreign competition, that somehow it's okay if we compensate people in some way. I mean, first of all, the problem has been that often the people who lose their jobs are not compensated. But the second problem is that I think it's increasingly being realized that people really want to have a job. It's not enough to have some attractive welfare payment. They want more than that, because they need some meaning in their lives, and having a decent job is one way to get some meaning. So I do think we are going to have to be spending more time thinking about how to make sure that people have meaning in their lives. But it's not easy. It's not easy to do that, but I think it's important, probably in every country.
How did the Nobel Prize change your life?
A very positive thing is that practitioners somehow I have access to them in a way that I didn't before, because of the magic of the name. So, people reach out to me, I'm on panels, and some of these, I get to actually listen and learn about what practitioners think, whether it's in, my area of contracts. I've learned, not only have I sort of listened to practitioners and found out what their first order concerns are when they write contracts, but also this was complete luck. When I went to Sweden for the Nobel week, I met someone who's a practitioner, a lawyer who advises people how to write contracts, and he listened to what I was talking about and found some of the things I was saying resonated very much with what he was doing in practice. So I'm a theorist, but my theoretical ideas resonated with him, and we started working together. And we've written 2 papers together. And so that would have never happened if I hadn't won the Nobel Prize. It was just a chance. But the other thing is to just continuing on this with the work I'm doing on ESG and corporate social responsibility and shareholder engagement. I think I've had a wider audience for that because of the prize.
Do you have any life advices for young people?
First of all, if you're going to become an economist, it's pretty important to have good mathematical skills. I did a first degree in mathematics, and then I switched to economics. Not everybody's going to do that, but I think the mathematical skills are best acquired when you're young. So I would say to anybody who's planning to do a PhD in economics, you better learn mathematical tools. These days, the subject is extremely empirical, and so the main mathematical tools are probably statistical, which was not the case in my day when I started out. Theory was much more important then. But the balance has shifted. I have to say that now I'm not sure I would become an economist anymore, because I think what the skill set or even the questions that people are working on are not ones where I think I would be very good, at answering them, because it's all empirical, and that's not my thing at all. I'm more of a theoretical, conceptual thinker. Unfortunately, I think there's still some stuff to be done there, which is what and that's the things I'm working on. But I'm not sure that if I were starting out, I might think that economics was not necessary for me. But anyway, that's a. But I think the main thing is, if you're going to do research, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to feel strongly that it's worth doing. And you have to be very persistent and determined, because you will face reverses. I mean, this is one of the things I've certainly experienced myself, that you work away on some problem, and you think it's interesting and important, but it may be that other people are doing something different. They're very excited about something different. And so you may actually, I've had good times where it was easy to get my stuff published. And then I've had times where what I was doing was less popular and it was harder to get stuff published. And you have to be tough enough to weather the bad times as well as the good times. So not everybody has that kind of personality, but I think that's what you need. And I think one of the things that helps there is working with co-authors. So I think one of the great benefits of working with a co-author, which I've done, I've done most of my work has been with co-authors, and there are 2 important positives of that. The most important thing is that with a co-author, you can create something which is better than what either of you could do separately. Okay, that's of course the main thing and the most exciting thing about it. But there's also this other thing, which is when times are tough, when your paper's rejected or people don't seem to like it, you can commiserate with your co-author.